Whales are iconic representatives of maintaining marine biodiversity and play an important role in Australia's oceans. However, these oceans are becoming an increasingly hazardous and concerning habitat for our whales. To ensure a healthy and diverse ocean, protection of these gentle giants is needed. Collision with boats, entanglement, pollution, and climate change are amongst some of the threats that claim the lives of our whales. The growing dangers in the oceans are in contrast to the growing love affair with them. Each winter, thousands of eager whale watchers hop on board to witness one of nature's greatest performances. We recently spoke with Jordan from Whale One Sunshine Coast to talk to him about the impact tourism has on whale conservation.
How does whale watching play a significant role in whale conservation?
So I think in particular eco whale watching or eco-friendly whale watching encourages tourists to come out and see these animals, and at the same time also it's putting money into our tourism industry as well.
What is Whale One's particular focus and contribution to conservation?
So Whale One, our main focus is education. So getting the tourists out there, showing them these animals, and also educating them how to look after the ecosystem and how to protect these animals too.
What do you believe is the biggest issue in regards to whale conservation at the moment?
So at the moment, it's not actually poaching or whale poaching. It's actually small things like putting your rubbish in the bin. It may not seem like a big deal, but these plastics slowly break down and these whales are ingesting them. So this is causing them to basically die. They can't eat, they can't expel what they eat, so they basically just clog up and die. Apart from that, also there's a massive increase in boats as well. So on the migratory paths of the whales, these whales are being injured by boats. So unfortunately that's something that we can't control, but we can control the small things like, as I said, plastics, rubbish, things like that.
Why do you think whales captivate the general public?
I think honestly you have to come out in the boat and see. They're just these magnificent creatures. Just seeing something that's like 30 tonne, absolutely reaching out of the water, doing all these sort of displays, and I think they're interested in us as much as we're interested in them too. So I mean, they captivate me.
Why do whales matter?
I think almost anything that's put on this earth matters in some way or another. Whales in particular, I mean, they're such a big part of the ecosystem. So you've got the krill that they eat. Without whales, that krill populates and populates. And it just basically works as ripple effect. So without the whales, heaps of krill, fish eat that, heaps of fish, it just goes up from there. So yeah, I think everything matters, but whales in particular, beautiful.
According to the Department of Environment and Energy, there are approximately 30 species of whales found in Australia's waters. However, several of these species are listed on the IUCN Red List as vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. These species include the Sai, blue, fin, sperm, southern white whale, and subpopulations of humpback whales.
There are 6 main threats towards the whale populations along the Australian coast: whaling, climate change, noise interference, habitat modification, vessel disturbance, and overharvesting of their prey. Whaling has been a major problem over the years, but has now since decreased rapidly. The International Convention for the Regulations of Whaling has allowed frequent permits for the lethal kill of whales. Permit holders include countries such as Japan, which is creating an ongoing issue with Australia.
As Japan continues its controversial whale hunt in the Antarctic Ocean, Australia threatens to take legal action.
Climate change is another major problem, as it is melting the polar ice caps. The whales migrate through Antarctica and up around Australia, and if this doesn't lessen or come to a stop, the migration patterns will have to change. If whales cannot change their migration patterns, or to the weather conditions, they could be on the brink of extinction. This time-lapse shows the effect of the increased temperatures over 25 years and how much of an effect it has had on the whale migration. Noise interference can also impact the whale's animal welfare. It disrupts and confuses the calls of the whale to one another. The effects of elevated noise levels on marine mammals can lead to avoidance of an area, tissue rupture, hearing loss, disruption of echolocation, habitat and calf abandonment, aggression, and behavioural issues. High-intensity signals with high peak pressures that are received at very short range can cause acute impacts such as injury or death. The introduction of industrial structures and practices can cause major problems with whale migration and health. The construction of ports, marinas, oil and gas rigs, and marine agriculture facilities can confuse whales and forcing them to change patterns. Collisions with ships, entanglement, and industry pollution can disturb the whales to the point of excluding them from critical feeding and breeding grounds and disrupting their migratory pathways. Food has become a thing no one can see living without, and has now created the fear of food shortage. Over-harvesting of the food chain will see the entire food supply disappear in a matter of decades, and the harvesting of krill is now a major problem for whale populations.
So this is all we are. Lunch. To think we spent our whole lives not knowing the truth. Goodbye, krill world.
The Commission, established under the Convention on the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, manages the krill fishery catch quotas using a precautionary ecosystem-level sustainable approach that aims to prevent or minimise negative impacts of the krill fishery on natural krill predators. Australia is a member of the Commission, and krill quotas are managed annually.
As whales have a very slow reproductive rate, with adult females only giving birth to one calf every few years, the need for action is a priority to prevent extinction. Since whaling ended in Australia in the 1960s, whale populations have increased. However, with the need for industrial progress and the development, it will have a detrimental impact on the current population.
The whale conservation effects of the Australian Government include focusing on the recovery of threatened species, research of populations, and habitat patterns. These efforts are to understand and evaluate scientific reasons as to why whales are becoming threatened. Goals that have been put in place include maintain and improve existing legal and management protection, assessing and addressing anthropogenic noise, understanding impacts of climate variability and change, minimising vessel collisions, measuring and monitoring population recovery, investigating population structure and describing spatial and temporal distribution, and ensuring the habitat is unharmed. To ensure these goals are met, they are working alongside state and territory governments to manage the impacts on whales from fishing, oil and gas explosions, entanglement, marine debris, and the growing interest in whale watching. In doing so, they promote and respect cultural values of whales and the marine environment, providing long-term economic benefits and opportunities to local communities.
Alongside the Australian Government, numerous non-for-profit organisations are jumping on board to protect and increase awareness for the need of whale conservation at a national, regional and international level. In partnership, the ecological conservation organisers can dialogue with the passion-driven communities to achieve a significant impact. But what can we do as a community? How can the general public get involved? Simple measures such as picking up rubbish, recycling, reducing marine leisure activities, supporting whale research, and more importantly, educating those around us.